The world we know was shaped by the outcome of the Second World War. But what if history had taken a different turn? In this alternate reality, the Axis powers win, sparked by subtle shifts in the 1920s and 30s. Bukharin, not Stalin, leads the Soviet Union, keeping the Red Army weak. In America, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. is elected president and vows isolation. With a divided opposition, the Axis pursues unchecked ambitions. The world's balance shifts, and history is rewritten. War erupts in Europe as Germany invades Poland in 1939, unleashing blitzkrieg tactics that shock the world. France and Britain scramble, but Germany's swift offensives bypass the Maginot Line, trapping Allied forces at Dunkirk. In this timeline, the evacuation fails. Most British soldiers are lost, crippling Britain's defense. France falls quickly. Italy joins the Axis, and together they dominate Western and Central Europe. A daring German assault captures Gibraltar, trapping the Royal Navy and allowing Italy to seize the Mediterranean. The Suez Canal falls, severing Britain's link to its empire and oil supplies. Britain is isolated, its empire cut off, and its navy hemmed in. The Axis now controls Europe from the Atlantic to Poland. With Britain on its knees, the stage is set for the final assault on the British Isles. The world watches as the last light of Allied resistance flickers. The Axis grip tightens and Europe falls under the shadow of the swastika. The conquest is nearly complete. With Western Europe subdued, Hitler turns east. Operation Barbarossa begins in 1941, the largest invasion in history. Bukharin's Soviet Union is unprepared, the Red Army is weak, demoralized, and poorly led. German blitzkrieg devastates Soviet defenses, encircling and destroying entire armies. The Luftwaffe dominates the skies, and German forces sweep through Belarus and Ukraine. Moscow falls by winter, shattering Soviet morale and government authority. A failed coup topples Bukharin, but it's too late. The Soviet Union dissolves in early 1942. The once mighty superpower fractures into warlord states. Germany consolidates control up to the Arkhangelsk-Astrakhan line, establishing vast colonies to exploit resources. The war in the East is over. The Soviet threat is gone. The Reich now stretches deep into Eurasia, fueled by the spoils of conquest. The Axis vision of a new order in Europe is realized. The world's balance has shifted forever. As Germany conquers Europe, Japan seizes its moment in Asia. With colonial powers distracted, Japan targets Southeast Asia's resources and the US Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. In this timeline, the attack is devastating. American carriers and fuel reserves are destroyed. The US Navy is crippled, and Japan sweeps through the Pacific, conquering the Philippines, Malaya, Singapore, and Indonesia. Japan's empire expands rapidly, controlling vital shipping lanes and resources. The US, led by an isolationist president, is slow to recover and suffers defeat after defeat. Japan establishes a formidable defensive perimeter, realizing its dream of a greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. The Pacific becomes a Japanese domain, with America reeling from its losses. The balance of power in Asia has shifted. Japan stands unchallenged in the East. Britain stands alone, battered and isolated. Sensing inevitable defeat, Ireland allies with Germany, allowing Axis forces to use Irish bases to choke off British supply lines. Starvation and desperation grip Britain as German U-boats and bombers dominate the Atlantic. Hitler launches Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of England. The weakened Royal Navy and Air Force are overwhelmed. German troops land and advance on London. The British government flees to Canada as London falls. Scotland and Wales declare independence, and the British Empire collapses. Allied leaders attempt a last stand in Scotland but are forced to evacuate. Britain, defiant for centuries, is conquered. Germany is now the undisputed master of Europe. America rebuilds its Pacific Fleet, but Japan prepares a deadly trap at Iwo Jima in 1945. Lured by false intelligence, the US fleet sails into a massive ambush. Japanese submarines, ships and aircraft strike from all sides, decimating the American fleet. The victory surpasses Pearl Harbor, crippling US naval power in the Pacific. Japan suffers heavy losses but retains control of the seas. The war reaches a stalemate. Japan dominates the Pacific, but America is too vast to invade. The US can no longer challenge Japanese supremacy at sea. The Pacific is locked in a tense, uneasy peace. The Axis powers have achieved their strategic goals. The world holds its breath, awaiting the next move. The war's outcome hangs in the balance. As the war stalls, a secret race for the atomic bomb unfolds. In this timeline, Germany wins the race, building the first nuclear weapon. The German High Command decides to use it against the United States to force surrender. On July 4, 1945, a German bomber drops an atomic bomb on Norfolk, Virginia, annihilating the city and killing tens of thousands. The US Atlantic Fleet is destroyed. The nation is stunned and terrified. President Truman faces an impossible choice: continue fighting and risk more atomic attacks, or seek peace. The threat of further devastation is too great. America's will to fight collapses. The world witnesses the dawn of a new, terrifying era. The war's end is now inevitable. Facing nuclear annihilation, President Truman negotiates peace with the Axis. The Akagi Accords are signed aboard a Japanese carrier, humiliating the United States. America cedes Hawaii and all Pacific islands to Japan, and grants Japan permanent naval bases in Los Angeles and San Francisco. The US is forced into isolation, its power broken. With American aid gone, resistance collapses worldwide. China falls to Japan. The last Allied hopes are extinguished. The Second World War ends, not in victory but in defeat and subjugation. The world is reshaped by Axis dominance. The fighting stops, but a dark new era begins. The consequences will echo for generations. The war's end brings not peace, but a world divided between two superpowers, the Greater Germanic Reich and the Empire of Japan. Germany rules Europe, Africa and the Middle East. Japan dominates Asia and the Pacific, even holding bases on the American mainland. Former allies are scattered, their governments in exile, clinging to hope in Canada and Australia. The United States, defeated and humiliated, is forced into isolation, watched by Japanese fleets in its own ports. The old democracies are shadows of their former selves. A new Cold War emerges, not between communism and capitalism, but between Germany and Japan. Both possess nuclear weapons, and their alliance is uneasy. The world lives in fear, waiting for the next great conflict. The shadow of war has passed, only to be replaced by another darker shadow. The Axis victory has created a world forever changed.